After 7 years of marriage, Victor's pet canary had grown tired of singing. She turned and fled, leaving behind only these words. Victor, I've made enough money off you, and now I don't want you either. I watched coldly, waiting to see how long Victor would tolerate it this time. After all, such scenes had been playing out non-stop for the past 3 years. But this time he smiled coldly. Just a pet, did you really think I'd care? Not long after news broke of her fatal car crash, the man, always so cold and detached, suddenly lost his mind. One after Laura's death, Victor seemed to have gone mad, locking himself in the study without eating or drinking. I knocked on the door only to be met with an icy response, get lost. I knew he was in a bad mood and wanted to apologize, but I instinctively shut my mouth again, feeling ridiculous. We're not even divorced, yet he's the one who cheated and changed his heart. Why should I apologize? I stared at the cold dishes on the dining table. The soup I'd simmered for 5 hours now, forming a congealed film on its surface, faintly carrying a fishy odor. I dumped it all into the trash without hesitation. Like our 20-year friendship, if we don't throw it away now, it'll grow mold and maggots, disgusting both myself and others. On the 8th day, Victor finally left his room. He tidied himself up, shaved, and returned to his former unattainable demeanor. But the look in her eyes grew increasingly gloomy, as if I were responsible for the death of her beloved. I watched him quietly, waiting for what he would say next. I knew a storm was coming. After knowing each other for so many years, and being together for 7, from school uniforms to wedding gowns, I had always believed we would walk the same path forever. Halfway through the journey, some choose to get off, and it seems I can only accept it passively. What about her? Victor's voice was icy, devoid of any emotion. After a long silence, I answered softly, buried. Victor's expression darkened instantly, his eyes burning with intense hatred as he glared at me. Isabella, who gave you permission to bury her? With your filthy hands, how dare you touch her? His eyes burned with fury as he spat out each word through clenched teeth. I could tell that if I weren't pregnant right now, he would have lunged forward to strangle me. But I still overestimated my place in his heart. The next second, he pinned me down on the sofa, his large hand tightening around my neck, squeezing out the last remnants of air from my lungs. All I felt was the world's spinning darkness enveloping my vision and the gradual fading of all sound in my ears. His voice was frenzied. Did you really think being pregnant would stop me? You think I actually care about that bastard child of yours? Laura's dead, don't worry, you and that little bastard in your belly are next. The terror of suffocation made me try to scream for help, but his hands clamped around my throat, leaving me voiceless. I realized Victor truly wanted me dead. I don't know how much time had passed before the weight on my body disappeared, followed by the tremendous sound of a door slamming shut. As consciousness gradually returned, I sat dazed on the sofa. Picking up my phone, I scheduled an appointment for an abortion procedure. Victor and I were childhood sweethearts, and ours was also a marriage of business alliance. Their parents arranged their marriage when they were just 3 years old, and they got their marriage certificate even before graduating from university. Life after marriage was relatively harmonious and happy. Perhaps due to his family background, Victor was unfazed by anything, never yielding, incapable of love, and certainly not one for sweet words. Yet after marriage, he would still prepare little surprises for me, like baking a cake himself for my birthday. Then, he magically produced the necklace I had long desired and held me tightly. Isabella, I'm not heartless, just give me more time, and I'll find a way to love you. Please don't be disappointed in me, okay? Every time this happened, I would nod vigorously and whisper to him that we had a lifetime together. He would also whisper those blush-inducing intimate words into my ear during passionate moments late at night. When exactly did things change? Perhaps it was the day Victor first met Laura, because we stayed up too late the night before. I couldn't get up the next morning, so he had to attend the prearranged event alone. Laura was the other party's assistant, fresh out of college, exuding an air of awkwardness. With a shy smile, she appeared both harmless and endearing. Not knowing how to play golf, she mustered the courage to ask Victor to teach her. They soon exchanged contact information, and their relationship progressed from acquaintance to official couple in less than half a month. Laura also resigned from her previous company and switched jobs to his company. Victor kept her by his side, teaching her everything meticulously, as if carefully nurturing a rose about to bloom. The ridiculous part was I didn't even get a chance to confront Laura directly. Victor hid her while I tried to investigate, but found nothing. The next day would even bring his wrath. Once I spent a fortune to finally obtain Laura's personal information. Before I could make a move, the details of my father's affair were laid out before me. And it wasn't just my father's, almost every family member's private information was there complete. Victor's warning was clear: if I targeted Laura, my family matters would be exposed to the public immediately. That night, I smashed everything in the villa right in front of him. And Victor just sat quietly on the sofa watching me destroy things with complete indifference. His gaze was as if he were looking at a madwoman. The ridiculous thing is now he's become a madman too. 3 that night, just as I had fallen asleep, his assistant called me. Miss Isabella, Mr. Victor keeps digging up Madame Laura's grave. Please come and talk some sense into him. I laughed bitterly. Though I was Victor's lawfully wedded wife, everyone called Laura Madam while addressing me as Miss Isabella. Since I stood him up after deciding to divorce last time, Victor directly declared on his official blog, Laura is the only wife he'll ever have in this lifetime. After that day, I became the laughingstock of North City. I forced a smile, my neck still throbbing faintly with pain. His business: go talk to Victor's family. Don't tell me, it's none of my concern. With that, she hung up directly. I never imagined Victor could stoop to grave robbing. Ever since he got together with Laura, we discussed divorce more often than we shared meals. But not once did we manage to reach an agreement. Either I disagreed, or he was called away by Laura, for various reasons. The most recent time was 2 months ago, when Victor offered me half his fortune in exchange for a divorce. I agreed, but the day before we were to finalize it, I discovered I was pregnant and stood Victor up. Victor blew up my phone that day, and Laura left on the very same day. After learning about it, Grandpa Victor personally came to talk with him for an entire night. He might disregard anyone else's words, but when it came to Grandpa Victor, he obeyed with absolute respect. The next day, Victor withdrew all the people he had sent out and never searched for her worldwide like before. We never spoke another word to each other, and neither of us mentioned the divorce again. At that time, I thought even if he didn't care about me, he would at least care about the child. Looking back, now trying to use a child to tie a man down was the most pathetic thing I've ever done. The next day, I went for an abortion. I'm not that noble, nor do I want to be a single mother. I can live without love, but my child must be born into a complete family. The procedure was quick, and I was discharged home that same afternoon. Now that the child is gone, divorce is just a matter of paperwork anyway. Victor hasn't shown up once during this time, not that it's surprising since he is busy searching the world for his little mistress. He simply couldn't believe Laura was truly dead. After 7 years of marriage, my belongings weren't exactly few, but neither were they abundant. I called for help and set up a brazier in the courtyard, burning everything that could be burned. As for the jewelry that couldn't be burned, I sold it all. I don't want to take a single trace of my belongings from this villa, nor leave any mark behind. Might as well burn it all. Victor happened to return just as I threw our wedding photos into the flames. I was somewhat surprised. After all, I hadn't seen him for over a month and had assumed he'd gone to die for love. Amid the swirling smoke, his eyes were icy, gazing at me as if I were already dead. He walked past me holding an urn in his arms. Victor suddenly reached out and pushed me. If the butler hadn't caught me in time, I might have been disfigured by now. A chill shot up from the soles of my feet. Victor had gone mad. He was taking revenge on me in this way. Victor clicked his tongue as if somewhat regretful. Clean this up, he said before turning to go upstairs. A surge of nameless fury rose from the depths of my heart. I had endured Victor keeping a mistress, and I had endured him threatening my family. Laura's repeated provocations, I endured them. That drunken night when he forced me to get pregnant, I endured that too. Endure, I endured for 3 years. Now he is openly trying to kill me. I won't endure anymore. If that is how it is, then let everyone die. I quickly caught up and grabbed Victor's arm, forcing him to turn around. With all my strength, I slapped him hard across the face. His head snapped to the side from the blow, and he fixed me with an ice-cold stare. Seeing the red handprint on Victor's face instantly filled me with deep satisfaction. Tomorrow, at 9 in the morning, we're getting divorced. Laura's death wasn't my fault. Don't throw all the blame at me. You know exactly how I got pregnant, and the reason I didn't show up on the divorce day was because your mother took me back to the old house. Your little lover was buried on your mother's orders too, because she couldn't stand seeing you in that wretched state. Don't pin all your shit on your father. Victor showed no reaction to my explanation. I don't care whether he believes it or not. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I made myself perfectly clear. The moment I left the vicar's villa, I carefully recalled the question Victor had asked me. Have you ever tasted the bitterness of losing someone you love, someone I love, huh? What was my response back then? Oh, I remember now. I said, Victor, you've been dead to me for a long time. When two people are in love, they see no one else around them. Back then I couldn't see Laura. Victor can't see me now. 5 after so many years together, are you really willing to let go? George was a mutual friend of both Victor and me throughout this 3-year-long love triangle. All news about Laura reached me through him. Willing after 7 years of love, hate, and obsession, it's not like I never fantasized about him changing his mind. But when Laura died, I understood. Standing on either side of the choice was a loss. I let out a light laugh, flicking the ash from my cigarette. Ever since learning of Laura's existence, I've developed a smoking habit. I don't like drinking, afraid I might do something regrettable when drunk, so smoking became my only release. A feeble attempt to numb my long deadened heart. When I remained silent, he continued. Laura is already dead since you've endured him for 3 years. Why not wait a little longer? He'll come back to you eventually. Besides, you have a child now. Even if Victor agrees, Victor's family won't. I don't need their approval. I told no one about my abortion. George grew visibly agitated when he saw he couldn't persuade me, and in a fit of anger, he cursed at me. You're such an idiot. Who knows if Laura is even dead at all? I frowned. What do you mean? After a long silence, he gritted his teeth and spilled the whole story from start to finish. Laura isn't dead. This was something I never expected. Laura had stormed off in anger and got into an accident. Grandpa Victor, wanting Victor and me to live peacefully together, especially since I was pregnant, simply declared her dead and hid her far away, hoping Victor would give up. But who could have imagined his grandson would go so far as to dig up the grave in the middle of the night? Victor's mother was left with no choice. She couldn't just watch her son drown in grief. She finally relented. The person has been brought back now. George sighed, unwilling to give up and still trying to persuade her. It really doesn't have to come to divorce. Isabella the First can tell he still cares about you. Now that the truth is out, you can focus on having the baby safely with your family, and the Victors watching over things. No matter how much Laura kicks up a fuss, she won't be able to touch you. Then I pressed out the cigarette and asked calmly. I had a rough idea in my mind. He froze for a moment, seeing my expression still indifferent, and swallowed the rest of his words. Ignoring him, I continued asking. Then I continued to endure them, as before, watching Laura occasionally prance around in front of me while they kept playing their old game of cat and mouse, until I gave birth, forcing my child to endure this with me. If Laura ever got bored and pulled this fake death stunt again, my child, and I would have to die for her immediately. Suddenly, it all felt utterly ridiculous to me. Not long ago, he choked me while cursing my child as a bastard, then turned around and went mad enough to dig up Laura's grave. He knelt before the old man, willing to take 30 lashes for news of her, yet upon returning, he deliberately pushed me into a fire pit. Having grown up together, I wasn't unaware of the inherent depravity in Victor's bones. The irony is he later learned of Laura's whereabouts after all, yet he still wouldn't let me go. Years of entanglement all comes down to this. Was it that he never loved me, or that he stopped loving me? 6 on the day of the divorce, Victor didn't show up. I tactfully refrained from calling, knowing he was at the hospital keeping Laura company. Though she survived, she suffered multiple fractures and temporary blindness. Their brief separation only intensified their passion, making them inseparable even for a moment. Victor even went so far as to contact the most specialized medical team abroad. How devoted of him. I laughed at myself mockingly. Since the agreement was already signed, I might as well contact a lawyer and proceed with litigation. No other reason, just for speed. Then I randomly bought a plane ticket to the south, changed my phone number, and deleted all my social media accounts. As the plane took off, I gazed at the layers of white clouds outside the window. In a daze, I remembered my childhood with Victor. Our families had been close friends for generations, with deep ties. After some discussion between our parents, they simply bought houses next to each other. But my parents loved to travel, and were often off gallivanting all over the world, though they always traveled separately. Back then I didn't understand, and naively asked Victor about it. Why don't your parents play separately? Don't they like it? I was 7 years old at the time. Victor was 11, already a little grown up. He kept a straight face for a long while before handing me a piece of candy. I'll only play with you from now on. Back then I didn't understand, so when I grew up my mind still hadn't processed it properly, and I went to ask him again. By that time, he had already graduated from university and officially taken over the company, so busy he didn't even have time to eat. 1 week before my sophomore year winter break ended, he came home very late that day because he was so busy. So throughout the entire holiday, we barely saw each other more than a few times. That night, I foolishly asked that question again. Only this time he didn't give me any candy. I remember it vividly. He took off his coat, cupped my face in his hands, his eyes swirling with emotions I couldn't decipher. The moment he approached, the pungent smell of alcohol hit me, mixed with a faint trace of tobacco. I wanted to step back, but he held me tightly in his arms, leaving me unable to move. His lips pressed against my ear as he whispered words that made my heart race and cheeks burn. Tonight, it's just the two of us playing. My mind went blank, and before I could react, his lips crushed against mine in a fierce kiss. The September evening breeze carried a hint of chill, yet it couldn't stop the flowers from quietly blooming. The airplane announcement crackled to life, and I opened my eyes in confusion. I'd actually fallen asleep. I can't remember how long it's been since I last dreamed of my childhood. As I got off the plane, I found myself thinking again about what had happened after that night. Victor and I officially became a couple that very night, skipping the dating phase entirely. Because that same afternoon, he took me to get our marriage certificate, then simply informed my parents afterward. I complained about how domineering he was, giving me absolutely no time to mentally prepare. He said, I'll only feel at ease if we marry early, there's plenty of time for dating later. Isabella, once you graduate, we'll hold our wedding immediately. Back then my heart and eyes were completely immersed in happiness. Yet I forgot that every sequence exists for a reason. We skipped the time for love, so in the future, naturally someone will make up for that lost time. 7 after getting off the plane, I was too lazy to run around or transfer, so I randomly found a hotel and slept until the world turned dark. I'm usually picky about beds, but this time I unexpectedly slept deeply. I felt as if I had slept for a very, very long time, vaguely hearing my phone ring multiple times in my days. I didn't answer it, letting it ring on, until the phone automatically ran out of battery, and I sank back into deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, 4 days had already passed. While regaining my energy, a lingering fear crept in. What if I died here, and no one knew? My phone was filled with missed calls and WeChat messages. I casually scrolled through and replied to a few that caught my eye. I also called my parents back. They'd long stopped living together, but kept delaying their divorce. It's not because of me. The main reason is that the people my parents found outside their marriage never wanted any official status, just happiness. They also found it troublesome after all life passes quickly, and in the end they'd still be buried together. Other than their love of playing around, they were actually quite good in every other way. Back then I thought I could accept that kind of marriage too. After all, it's just the absence of love. At least there is still mutual respect. Just close your eyes and endure it. But later I realized the reason my parents could maintain such a marriage was because there had never been love between them to begin with. Naturally, nothing the other did mattered. Victor and I did share love once. We both know what it means to truly love someone, which is why I couldn't accept that kind of marriage. Neither could he accept Laura's death. After we hung up, I received 2 bank transfers. There's no denying that although they didn't love each other, they did their best to give me love. Victor also called me during that time, but I didn't answer, choosing to turn a blind eye. We're already divorced, there's nothing left to entangle. After lying in the hotel for a few more days, I suddenly realized I seemed to have nowhere to go. I'm grateful to the king of hell for reincarnating me into a well-off family thanks to my parents' blessings and Victor's care. I was exposed from childhood to things many people never get to experience in their lifetimes. Before marriage, whenever there was a holiday, I'd drag my classmates along to travel everywhere. The vast northwest, the northern lights of Scandinavia, those dreamy yet naive aurora-chasing adventures. Lying in a wilderness tent at night gazing up at the sparse stars hidden behind layers of clouds. Back then I was bold enough to think, pursue, and act whatever I wanted to do. I did it immediately. But after marriage, I could only be Mrs. Victor, careful not to embarrass him. Now I am free. 8. I picked up my old hobbies again, carrying a small bag every day to sketch and explore, stopping wherever the road took me. Occasionally when inspiration strikes, I can create some really good artwork. My rebuilt social media account has also gained quite a few followers. I adopted another cat, but I'm terrible at naming things, so I simply named it Black based on its fur color. Every morning when I wake up, I see it curled up in my arms, letting out a couple of soft, sweet meows at me. My old mother's heart is practically melting with adoration. Yet I never imagined I'd see Victor again. Carrying Blake out for a stroll, I opened the door to find Victor standing right outside. My surprise lasted only a moment before understanding dawned. With his far-reaching influence, it wasn't strange at all that he'd tracked me down. On the sofa inside the house, I sat facing him, quietly waiting to hear his purpose. At this point, seeing Victor again, I was unexpectedly calm. No questioning, no arguing. Now he and I weren't even friends. Nor did I believe he had come to me this time to reminisce about the past. Black sensed the tension and hid in its cat bed, refusing to come out. Victor scanned the room, his gaze finally settling on the face of the person opposite him. When are you going back? I asked. Back where? North City. The air fell silent for a moment before I could even speak. The old man is very worried about you, Isabella. You're not a 3-year-old child anymore. Running off this far without a word, have you considered how others might feel? Especially now that you're pregnant. Come back with me, have the baby properly. My mother will take care of you. Victor's voice carried a trace of weariness, yet his tone brooked no opposition. A wave of restlessness rose within me. He still didn't know I'd already terminated the pregnancy. Of course his heart belonged solely to Laura. My affairs would never concern him. Had he bothered to lift a finger to investigate, he'd have known that the bastard he once spoke of had long ceased to exist. If it weren't for the pressure from Victor's family, he would never have sought me out in this lifetime. I lowered my gaze with a cold smile, the mockery in my eyes growing more pronounced. I've had the abortion. Please thank Grandpa Victor for his concern on my behalf. I'll visit him when I have time. You can leave now. He seemed taken aback by how decisively I acted this time. Victor abruptly stood up, his face darkening like spilled ink. Through gritted teeth, he demanded, say that again. Whereas the child, afraid he might not hear me clearly, I repeated the question slowly and gently. I said, I've already had the abortion. Victor, we're divorced now. From this day forward, please don't disturb me again. With that, I turned and walked straight back to my room. 9. I don't know when Victor left. When I went out, I saw a bank card placed on the coffee table. What does this mean, guilt or compensation? After thinking for 3 seconds, I still took it. After all, who would complain about having more money? This is what I deserve. I've returned to my former carefree life with just me and my cat. There is no longer any trace of Victor or Laura around me. Only George occasionally contacts me, intentionally or unintentionally revealing updates about Victor and Laura. For instance, no one in Victor's family or Laura knew about his last visit to me. For instance, Victor didn't bring Laura home, but kept her housed elsewhere. Another example, Laura threw a huge tantrum, gave Victor the cold shoulder for 3 days, then tried pulling her old disappearing act again. Only this time Victor didn't go looking for her, she came slinking back on her own. When George asked about my future plans, I thought carefully, but realized I had none. Life goes on as usual, the world keeps turning without anyone. The past resentments have dissipated with the wind. I just want to live well from now on. 10. But I never expected that Grandpa Victor would come in person, accompanied by Victor's mother. I recalled how George had hemmed and hawed, beating around the bush during our phone call last night. Suddenly I understood a thing or two. Looking at the 2 elderly people sitting across the sofa, I felt both helpless and furious. Was this emotional blackmail? Regardless, when I was at Victor's house, both Grandpa Victor and Victor's mother had treated me very well. Especially when Laura had the accident, Grandpa Victor went to such lengths to protect my marriage with Victor. For someone like him, the always upright and honorable head of the Victor family, it was already quite remarkable. Isabella, come back with Grandpa. I won't force you to stay with him. You're someone I've watched grow up. This old man, doesn't he know how much longer he is left? Just think of it as keeping me company. As for the matter between you two, you should decide according to your own heart. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a lump in my throat. Grandpa Victor truly doted on me, and he was already over 80 years old this year. His health had long since declined, and the issues between Victor and me shouldn't involve others. Victor's mother sighed, staring at my flat belly with tears glistening in her eyes. Isabella, are you managing well on your own? Do you have enough money? Have you recovered your health? As she spoke, she handed me a bank card. Take this money. If you don't want to go back, use it to buy yourself something nice. Everything else is trivial. What matters most is taking care of your health. Your parents have been away for years, and I've watched you grow up since childhood. That things have come to this between you and Victor. When it comes down to it, this is my responsibility too. I declined their kindness. As we were leaving, Victor's mother seemed to want to say something more, but in the end, no words came out. After getting in the car, Victor's mother made a call to her son. She's doing very well now. Since you chose that other woman, you should let her go from now on. The child, is it really gone? Victor asked softly. When he went to see her last time, he didn't know what had come over him. He genuinely wanted to know how she was doing, but the words came out all wrong. Hearing that she had indeed terminated the pregnancy, an inexplicable panic surged through him. He couldn't pinpoint where this feeling came from after years of being together. He knew her inside out. She had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. No matter how harsh her words were, they were just outbursts meant to vent her emotions, to make him care about her a little more. So this time, he thought she was just lying about aborting the child to vent her anger. Unexpectedly, she actually went through with it. 11. I didn't want to be disturbed by Victor anymore, but I didn't know where to go. If he wanted to find me, he could track me down no matter where I hid. I knew it was his doing when someone from Victor's family came looking for me last time. I couldn't fathom his motives. Was it habit, or perhaps mingled with a trace of reluctance to let go? But none of this has anything to do with me. Sitting by the window and thinking all afternoon, I still don't know where I'm actually going. Before the age of 5, my companions were nannies and bodyguards. Every day after turning 5, besides nannies and bodyguards, there was also a Victor by my side. It can be said that he occupied the most important part of my life. But so what? My life is still long, and what has passed is past. From now on, Victor will no longer appear in my life. That's enough. I gave up the apartment and booked a ticket to Harbor City. Coincidentally, my mom was also there. Worried I might do something drastic, she insisted on dragging me around for a long while and even introduced me to her boyfriend. He was a very elegant man. Yes, elegant. Completely different from my father. He has a natural talent for caring for others, making everyone feel comfortable in his presence without ever overstepping boundaries. Uncle Ford was the longest-lasting partner my mother had. He even proposed to her at one point, but she turned him down. They broke up over it for a while, but later my mother managed to smooth things over, and now they're getting along quite well. Watching my mother's face light up with youthful, radiant smiles, I found myself unconsciously laughing along with her. So, what if there's no love? Life is full of beautiful scenery everywhere. But who can tell me why the people who shouldn't appear keep showing up again and again? A week after arriving in Hong Kong City, I saw Victor again. A sudden surge of nameless anger rose within me as I recalled all the previous incidents, his inexplicable appearance, the visit from Victor's family. If I still couldn't understand this, then I must truly be a fool. I lifted my eyelids slightly and said coldly, "What exactly do I need to repeat myself again? We're already divorced, Victor. Could you please, I beg you, stop showing up in front of me from now on? Is that too much to ask? Now, everything's gone your way. The bastard you kept mentioning is gone, and we're divorced too. You're free to marry Laura and have 80 children with her for all I care. I don't understand why you keep appearing before me for time and time again." I blocked him at the door and said a lot. Speaking of the past, speaking of Laura, speaking of those 3 years that nearly destroyed me, speaking of the child I lost. With every word he spoke, his face grew paler, and by the end, I felt satisfied. Victor's face grew increasingly pale, his hand pressed against the doorframe, gripping it so tightly that the veins on his hand bulged out. I couldn't close the door, and so we stood there staring at each other. At this distance, I could clearly see the plea and pain in his eyes. After a long while, he slowly uttered a single sentence. "I'm sorry, I regret it, Isabella. Forgive me, please." "I don't think so," I said bluntly, then shut the door, shutting out all the noise from outside. This apology comes too late. I no longer needed Victor. That love triangle from back then consumed far too much of my time. I don't have the courage to look back. I will never look back. 12. After that day, Victor moved in next door. Whenever I went out to sketch or walk Blake, I'd turn around to find him following not far behind. I won't speak or approach, and I'll pretend not to see anything at all. As time passed, both the elderly landlady and the downstairs neighbors grew curious. Ask me who he is, I answered truthfully, my cheating ex-husband. People sighed in sympathy, and many tried to persuade me. "Your husband is so handsome and wealthy, it's only natural he'd have an affair as long as he still comes home. Just turn a blind eye to it. Yeah, it's no big deal. Just have a child, get a firm grip on his family assets, and those women outside won't be able to cause any trouble." How absurd this world is. Clearly it's the man who is at fault, yet no one tells him to change. Instead, they all advise the woman to swallow her pride and endure. When the elderly landlady heard about it, she pitied Victor. She even cut his rent in half and advised him, "You've got such a good wife, you must hold on to her. This old woman isn't blind. I can see Isabella still has feelings for you. Otherwise, why wouldn't she have gone on a single date all this time?" The old woman spoke earnestly, even giving Victor's hand a solemn pat. I shook my head, caught between laughter and tears. Is it just that people start imagining things when they get older? Lately, my mom has been hinting around, asking if I have any plans to remarry. I told her very seriously, I'm not a recycling center, I don't take in trash. I don't want to move again, it's too exhausting, and Blake can't handle it either. But the gossip outside was driving me crazy, and he seemed to know exactly when I'd step out. Every time I opened the door, he'd coincidentally be there, and as we walked downstairs together, I'd always catch the neighbor 2 doors down smiling at us. The last time I couldn't take it anymore. "Victor, didn't you say you wanted my forgiveness?" This was the first time I'd taken the initiative to greet him since he moved in. His hand paused on the doorknob, his eyes filled with expectation as he looked at me. "Tell me, what will it take for you to forgive me? Just say it, and I'll do anything." I knew he wasn't boasting, he was truly capable of many things. "Victor, you've done so many things to hurt me. Why do you think just a few words would make me forgive you? His face turned pale in an instant. He wanted to say something but realized any words would be futile. Because he knew he was a scoundrel and the things he had done, even unspoken, remained. Yet every night those past deeds forced their way into his mind, impossible to ignore, leaving only endless regret. 13. Victor was gone. I left in the middle of the night that day. 3 days later, I received a call from George. Victor is in trouble. Will you come back to see him? It might be the last time. After much deliberation, I booked a ticket back to Beijing. As I boarded the plane, I received a text message, then turned off my phone. I admit, I'm not a good person. My upbringing taught me that when you can't swallow your anger, you should pause for a moment. Perhaps there'll be a turn for the better. By the time we reached the hospital, Victor's condition had stabilized, but his legs were ruined. He'd be confined to a wheelchair for life. After comforting Victor's mother with a few words, I entered the ward. Tubes covered Victor's body, and the ventilator beeped steadily. The doctor said whether he would wake up depended on fate. I leaned in to study his features, still as handsome as ever, still making my heart flutter. A shame we could never go back. The conversation that day was simple. I didn't do anything. I just told Victor to get back all the money he spent on Laura over those 3 years, and then I'd consider giving him a chance. I'm not short of money, and neither is Victor. But Laura is her family background is average, and although she's an only child, her parents didn't give her much love. The money spent on her since childhood was pitifully little. Having gotten the chance to latch onto a big tree like Victor, she certainly wouldn't let go easily. 3 years, not too short, not too long, had already spoiled her with Victor's lavishness. It's easy to go from frugality to luxury, but hard to go from luxury back to frugality. During those 2 months Victor was in Harbor City, I secretly photographed him doing things for me every day and sent the pictures to her. The man who once cherished her like a pearl, holding her dear to his heart. Such a tremendous height difference would drive anyone to madness. Especially when the man she loved reached out to her again, not because he missed her, but to demand repayment. She had long since spent all that money. I roughly calculated that over those 3 years Victor had spent over 500 million on her, just the visible amounts. In extreme circumstances, especially when desires remain unfulfilled, people are highly likely to do things they regret for the rest of their lives. Sure enough, unable to attain love or fulfillment, Laura's volatile nature drove her to ram her car into them with full force. 14. After leaving the hospital, I drove to a remote warehouse. When Victor had the accident, Laura was immediately taken into police custody. But because of those 3 years of sensational romance that shook the northern city, coupled with the fact that Victor's family was entirely focused on Victor, no one paid her any attention for the time being, thinking it was just another lover's quarrel. So I had no trouble bailing her out from the police station. I'd seen the leader a few times before, one of my father's men. When he noticed me approaching, he immediately stepped forward. Miss Isabella, she's inside. How would you like to play? I nodded and walked over to the table where the props were laid out, picking up a strangely shaped toy. Give him all of these, just leave him breathing enough for the police, the rest is up to you. Got it. The entire North City, every place, and every person here is familiar to me. But now I have absolutely no reason to stay. I've said it before, I'm not a good person. Laura's 3 years of provocation, Victor's favoritism, and countless jeers. I became the laughingstock of the entire high society. And then the first child I lost due to Laura's provocation. I lay in the hospital for 3 days, and Victor never once came to see me. That was the first time I learned of her existence. Victor had hidden it well. It took me a full 6 months to find out. Before I knew, he could still deceive me. But after being discovered, he was surprisingly honest. I still remember that day when I came home from the hospital. He was sitting on the sofa holding the exorbitantly expensive jewelry he had won at an auction. Faintly, I could make out a name engraved on it. It's Laura, he said. I've fallen in love with someone else. If you don't want a divorce, you can still keep your position as Mrs. Victor. Then his tone shifted abruptly. But don't let me catch you doing anything to harm her. With that he left, yet the look he gave me grew increasingly dark, as if I were responsible for the death of the woman he loved. He didn't ask me why I hadn't come home for 3 days, why my face was so pale, or why I was so weak. At that time his heart and eyes were completely filled with Laura. 15. Laura was tortured beyond recognition and was sent to the police station. With just a word from the Viquez family, her days inside wouldn't be easy. She should thank me after all. With me as the cautionary tale, the suffering she endures later will pale in comparison. I returned to Harbor City and resumed my life as usual. Perhaps because I'd been away for so long, Blake seemed a little distant when he saw me and refused to rub against me. I heard Victor had woken up. When he learned his legs were crippled, he remained eerily calm. He only asked one question: what about her? George didn't know how to respond at first, and remained silent for a long while. She's gone, he said. Just got word from Laura. She's dead. Victor didn't speak another word. With eerily calm composure, he drove everyone out of the hospital room before smashing all the medical equipment. In the end, all that could be heard from outside the door were faint, muffled sobs. I went out as usual to gather inspiration, occasionally remembering that the house next door had remained empty. Raising an eyebrow, I chose to move. People, you can look back, but don't walk back.